Hello everyone, Neil Patel here. Thank you for downloading the latest episode of the Indian Startup Show. So today I speak to Ashim Roy. He is the founder of Cardiotrack. It's a disruptive healthcare diagnostics company that is making heart healthcare more accessible and efficient. He talks about how the device actually works, his long entrepreneurial career so far. He talks about the difficulties of building an IoT startup. He also talks about getting out of the corporate life. He talks about the joy of saving lives. And finally, he talks about his love of cooking. So please enjoy the show. Thank you. Hello, Ashim. Thank you for coming on the Indian Startup Show today.
Thank you, Neil. Thanks for the opportunity.
Please tell the listeners what you're building.
We are building a cardiovascular disease diagnostic platform. In India, the problem seems to be that, or actually in many countries, cardiovascular diseases have become the number one killer. And what we have found is that outside of the urban centers, let's say top 20 cities in India, the availability of proper diagnostic as well as intervention for cardiovascular diseases is very poor. And that's what we are trying to solve.
And what have you actually built then?
Okay, so our solution is, you may know, and many of your listeners may know about cardiovascular diseases. And first diagnostic device that is available for cardiovascular diseases is a ECG machine. We have built a digital 12-lead ECG machine, which is handheld. It's the size of your smartphone. The information gets displayed on a smartphone. When it's captured by the device, it gets sent from the device via Bluetooth over to a smartphone. That's where we display the information. We are completely paperless. And from there, the information goes to the cloud, where we do interpretation based on a AI interpretation engine that we have. And that information then comes back to the primary care physician. And as through this process, we are able to complete the diagnosis in less than 5 minutes.
Excellent. And can you share some stats? How are things going?
Yes. So we started this activity back in 2015. We launched the product in tail end of 2015. And since then, we have deployed 500 of these units in India, in Indonesia, Myanmar, and Mexico largely. And there are some few trials going on in Africa and some other countries, but these are the main locations where we have deployment as of right now.
And has that surprised you when you first launched in 2015?
Well, I mean, we were surprised by the fact that there was nothing like this available. When we did our research in terms of, we were actually working with a group of medical researchers at a hospital called St. John's Hospital in Bangalore, which is very well known for a variety of different medical activities, healthcare activities. And what we found out is that there is not much available in terms of a early stage diagnostic solution, particularly for primary care physicians. So that's what got us involved in this. And then we did the research, found out that according to WHO, about 60 million people in India, which is a pretty large number if you think about it, combined population of many countries in Europe. And yet so many people have cardiovascular diseases in India, and they are not able to get to a diagnostic center or for intervention because the early diagnosis and prevention doesn't happen.
Excellent. And what were the early days like? Obviously, you started in 2015 and launched at the end of 2015. You must have some stories to share.
Yeah, lots of stories to share. So we actually, once we got started, we found out that there's a lot of hesitation among the doctors about using technologies like these because they're not used to it. Secondly, what we found out is that when we did our first set of trials at a very rural clinic, that's a very interesting story. In fact, it's probably useful for many people, many of your listeners. So what happened is that we gave some of our devices to primary care centers across the country, and we wanted to see what the feedback is. And after some initial training, etc., some of these people started using it. One of the doctors I reached out after about 2 months, he was using the device. So we knew that because all the data came to our website, our server, and we could see that he was using it. And all of a sudden he stopped using it. So I called him up and asked him what happened. he said that, you have given me something really fantastic. I really like the device that you have. It allows me to diagnose a lot of patients. But last week, a patient died. And I said, how did that happen? And he said that, okay, well, what happened is that I had diagnosed a patient with a critical heart condition, and I had suggested to her family, she was 70 years old, and I suggested to her family that she should be taken to a district hospital immediately. And they just couldn't afford the intervention. So as a result of that, they didn't do anything, and she passed away. And he stopped using it. So then after some more conversation, I found out that in the process of using the device over a period of 2 months, he actually had saved 3 lives already.
Oh, right. Okay.
And so I told him that this is not so bad. In fact, if you look at the number of lives that you're saving compared to someone you could not save, it's a great benefit to the society. So why don't you continue using it? And after some conversation, he agreed that actually he should continue to use it. And that gave us the idea that, yes, there is a use for the device, and there is a benefit that we bring to the society from these kinds of products.
Excellent. And how long did it take to build the first prototype?
It took us quite some time. In fact, although I said that company got started in 2015, but activity has started back in tail end of 2013.
Oh, right, okay.
Although not formally incorporated, we were trying out many different ideas. So it took us about 2.5 years before we actually launched our first product.
Is this your first startup then?
No, it's not. Actually, just to give you a little bit of my background, I was born in India. I went to school here. Then I went to Australia to do my PhD. I worked there for a couple of years. Then I went to Canada. And finally, I spent 20 years in US, and I came back to India. What I realized is that, and while I was in India, I realized that there is a lot of gap in the healthcare. I don't come from healthcare background. I come from telecom background. But I realized that there is a lot of gap, and as a result of there's a lot of opportunity to improve healthcare. And that's what we are trying to do. This is my third startup.
And what did you learn from the first 2 startups?
Okay. So first 2 startups were in US. So as a result of that experience is very different, and they were in telecom space. They were not in healthcare. What I'm realizing is that although there are a lot of opportunities in healthcare is a very regulated market. So as a result of that, we have to be a lot more cautious in terms of developing and marketing the product or taking a product to the market. So the development and testing cycle is a lot longer in case of healthcare compared to other products. And India is a really interesting crucible of innovation at the moment, because there is so much going on in healthcare. You may have heard of Modi Care, for example, where starting next week, 500 million people will have hospitalization insurance provided to them, and that's a really amazing thing, And for those kinds of schemes to be successful, it's really important that there is a lot more attention to preventive care, and that's the space we are in. We are trying to identify patients early so that they can be treated using medication. So that reduces the load on the insurance company, because the insurance payment happens when the patients end up in the hospital.
Excellent. Okay. How are you funding the business then?
So we try to raise money here. Initially, we were funding it, as I told you, that we during the early year and a half to almost 2 years, we were funding it ourselves between 2 founders. And then beginning of 2015, we found our first investors in Singapore, and that got us started. And we ended up doing the product launch towards end of 2015. And subsequently, we have raised more money from other sources in India as well as outside of India. These are largely HNI type of investors. Now we are getting ready to expand or at least do sales acceleration. So for which we will need some serious amounts of funding, and that will only come from institutional investors. So that's how we have been growing ourselves.
And how are you finding that process of raising, big amounts of money?
Raising money is always tough, particularly in healthcare, where it takes long time to for the product to mature, and as well as take a product to market and a product to mature, and a lot of people feel comfortable about using the product. But I'm pretty confident that we will get through this round of funding, which we are trying to do right now, because the thing that has happened, which is good for us, is that not only some marquee names have come our way in terms of being our customers, organizations like Columbia Asia, Paras Hospitals, they are very large hospitals in India, and they have started using our product. So, which is a good thing. And in addition to that, also we are finding that given our current sales traction, we can show how we have been growing. So as a result of that, I feel that we should be able to get the funding done.
So in your experience, what should first-time founders be focusing on then?
Okay, so I think it's very important to focus on the market need, and identify unmet needs, particularly. But in addition to identifying unmet needs, there is a very key issue here, is that ability of the market to pay for the product. There may be some unmet needs. However, if there are not sufficient number of people who are willing to pay for such a product or a solution.
Excellent. Okay. And did you ever doubt yourself?
Yes, many times. As we go through ups and downs of our business, we do question ourselves many times, and we have found that not every time we are right. Take, for example, when we launched our product for the first time and we took it to the primary care physicians, soon we found out that primary care physicians in India didn't have the ability to pay for the product like this. So as a result of that, yes, we had a question mark against whether such a product would be viable in India, but we also knew that there is a need. So we had to solve the business problem in terms of identifying who the buyer would be, who would be willing to pay for the product like this. And that's when I told you earlier, is that in our case, the user and the buyer are different. And we started with the assumption that user and buyer would be one and the same, but that's not necessarily the case all the time. And once we were able to identify that as an opportunity, we actually started getting a lot more traction on the sales side.
Okay. It seems a lot of startups do fail, and you're still going. Why do you think that is?
Okay, so if you look at the startup scenario in India or anywhere else, the general trend or general statistic is that 95% plus of the startups will fail, right? And the more adaptive ones, I think it's the survival of the most adaptive. I feel that technology by itself is not really the key here. It's the ability to solve a problem that is there in the market and that others have not solved. So if you are able to identify those opportunities, whether you have a great technology or not, you still would do very, very well. It's really the idea is not to just get hung up on we have the greatest technology and it should sell. That's not necessarily the case. The issue is that, are we solving a real problem and people are willing to pay for that solution?
Excellent. Okay. So hardware startups are very hard. What's the hardest bit about what you're doing?
Okay, so there are a bunch of things which are very difficult. Take, for example, the mindset of cardiologists, or I'll give you a simple example where a lot of the cardiologists we spoke with initially, they felt that we are out to get their job, or we are actually taking away their business. That's definitely not the intent. Our intent was misunderstood, because our intent is to make their life easier and more efficiently use their time. By doing the AI interpretation, we are actually saving them time rather than taking away the jobs. And as it is, with 10,000 cardiologists and 60 million people with cardiovascular illnesses, cardiologists at any point in time, in foreseeable future, are not, going out of business for sure. However, that has to be understood. People have to start looking at the solution and understand what we are trying to do and how we are helping them. Once they understand that, I think the adoption becomes better.
What advice would you give to anyone wanting to do a IoT or hardware startup?
Okay, this is a tough one because IoT hardware startup in India is really tough for multiple reasons. Even though the government talks about Make in India and so on, the infrastructure point of view and support point of view, we really lack. If you compare our product versus some of the products coming out of China, the source material cost is at least 30% or 35% lower in China. So as a result of that, they have a significant advantage compared to us. And until those kinds of issues are addressed, what happens is that we have a disadvantage being an Indian company developing a product in India and trying to manufacture in India. Manufacturing infrastructure here is not that well set up. There are good manufacturing companies here, that there's no doubt about it. But in terms of source material, which is mostly imported, in our case, 99% of the components are all imported, we have the cost burden, which is setting us, it makes it difficult for us to go and justify our prices in front of a customer.
Actually, you mentioned Mexico and Indonesia.
Yes.
Why those two countries? Did they come to you, or did you go to them?
So both actually. Okay. In case of, I'll take the Mexico as an example. What happened is that we met with those folks at a trade conference, and one thing led to another, and they wanted to try out the product, and that's what happened there. In case of Indonesia, we got the initial lead through one of our investors, and once we started working with them, they realized that we had a value to add to their portfolio of products. So as a result of that, we actually found a distributor who already has experience in medtech, and we started working with them. So these two work out, that was the arrangement with each of those organizations.
You mentioned your career. Was it tough to walk away from a successful career in America?
So I came back to India beginning of 2007 for personal reasons. But in terms of walking away from a successful career, I actually was preparing myself for something like this. I knew that there is a huge demand or huge need, unmet need, particularly in the rural areas for better health tech solutions. And so I feel that I have made the right decisions in terms of getting out of the corporate life and trying to do something which actually will be very, very useful in the Indian context in the long run. But the short term, there are difficulties. I would admit that there are challenges on a day-to-day basis in terms of funding and trying to find customers, trying to break into, government organizations to solve the problem at the primary care level. But still, I think that India is a very, very interesting market when it comes to healthcare, because there is so much going on in India.
But how do you transition from telecommunications to healthcare then?
Okay, so my co-founder, he comes from a medical electronics background, and then we had our set of advisors, as I mentioned to you earlier, is that we were working with St. John's. They are totally into healthcare, although they are in tertiary care. So we had a lot of help from our advisors regarding how we could take things forward. What are the specific things we should be looking at from product point of view? Mm-hmm. What are the key features and so on? So we did get some help along the way when we did the transition.
Mm-hmm. And as a founder, then obviously you have to know everything: sales, marketing, hiring, firing, etc. How do you learn all that?
Well, I have done that before. I've been in startups for the past 15 plus years. So startup is it's not new to me. Mm-hmm. Prior to this, I was country head for a US-based startup in India, and we had a pretty large organization here. So as a result of that, I did, and also in US prior to that, also I was part of startup companies in US. So I have been living and breathing startups for quite some time. Mm-hmm. And so startup is not new to me. Mm-hmm. What is new to me is that Indian context and the healthcare, mm-hmm. For which we did get a lot of help from other people.
Mm-hmm. And what's the best thing about being a founder then of a startup?
The best thing is the joy of seeing lives being saved. Mm-hmm. We get so many reports, over the year, 3 years that we have been shipping the product. We probably have taken ECG scans of about 60,000 plus people. Mm-hmm. And I would be very confidently tell you that about 1,600 or maybe even more than that have people been in the critical state when we actually did the diagnosis. Not we, the primary care physician, did the diagnosis using our product, and those are the lives we have saved. So I feel that we have contributed to the society in some meaningful way through this startup.
Mm-hmm. How do you motivate yourself then? Is it the fact that you're saving people's lives then, or are you motivated by money, or
So see, the thing is that when I was part of a large corporate, what I realized is that there is an unmet need, particularly in the tier 2, tier 3 cities, which I had visited, and some rural areas I had the opportunity to visit. And every place I found that there is a need for better healthcare solution. And I think bringing information technology to solve some of the healthcare requirements in India is the best way to address the problem, because we are a country of 1.3 billion people and not yet enough hospitals or enough cardiologists or even enough primary care physicians. Mm-hmm. So unless technology comes in to solve these problems, it will be very difficult to have healthcare for everyone. Mm-hmm. So democratizing healthcare is really a key requirement. And yet, and that actually creates a lot of opportunities for companies like us.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. And what's the obviously you've had a long career. What's the most surprising thing about your entrepreneurial journey so far?
So I kept hearing that entrepreneurship is tough and it's all the hard work that you put in, and there is very little to do with luck. But I actually begin to think now, looking back for over the last 3 years that we have been doing this thing on our own, I feel that we have been extremely lucky at times when there's no other hope left. All of a sudden, something happens which took us to the next part of the journey. When we were almost running out of funds ourselves, tail end of 2014, beginning of 2015, we actually managed to get funded. Mm-hmm. Same thing has happened more than once. And so I can't tell you, I have to tell you that there is an element of luck. And I feel extremely lucky that we find those really interesting junctures at which someone comes along the way all of a sudden out of the blue and helps us out, which has been very, very pleasant for us.
Mm-hmm. And what qualities do you think entrepreneurs should have then?
I think the passion is the most important thing in entrepreneurship. If you are not passionate about what you're doing, you're not going to be able to have this journey and be able to apply yourself to deliver the best that you can deliver.
Mm-hmm. Last few questions then. And what would you say is the vision of the company then?
So there's only one thing that we are focusing on, we have been focusing on from the beginning, that I would like to say that in next several years, we save million lives. I know that we have saved more than 1,000 for sure, but it's long ways from a million lives saved. If we are able to successfully deploy this product at far reaches of the country, that goal is not very difficult to achieve, because we know that about 3.5 million people die every year from cardiovascular illnesses in India. And if we are able to contribute in a positive way to solve that problem, we are well along the way of achieving that goal of million lives saved.
I wonder what Cardiotrack would look like in 20 years' time then.
That's a very tough question. I don't think it'll look anything like what we have today. Absolutely not like whatever we have. Current day, we have a solution which is, we deploy at the primary care clinics. I think 20 years from now, it will be a solution that is available in some form, available at home to not everyone, but many people will have a solution that is connected, and that automatically informs their primary care physician or their hospital when they should come for a checkup if there is a need. So that's the direction that we are heading. I think if you look at the wellness products like Apple Watch and so on, or Fitbit and things like that, there will be a continuum between the wellness products and clinical products that we have. Clinical products are, more accurate, is more detailed in their observation of the patient. And with the technology improving every year, what I expect is that clinical solutions at a very much lower cost will be available to patients directly.
Cool. And do you have any business heroes, people you admire?
Yes, many. I would say that Andy Grove, who was the chairman of Intel a number of years ago, he's definitely has been a visionary, and I look up to him. And I've read his books, and I feel that he has contributed in a very, very positive way to where the technology is today in terms of computing and computer science and software technologies.
And do you have any hobbies and interests?
Yes, I do enjoy cooking.
Okay. What do you cook?
I don't like all kinds of things.
Okay.
I enjoy making salad dressing, for example. That's one of the things that I do. I've been doing lately, I see that 5 years from now, probably I will start supplying salad dressing to many of my friends.
Okay, nice, excellent. Any sort of flavors? Any names you could give us of the salad dressing?
Okay, so it has to be a mixture of spicy and tasty. Yeah. So sesame is a common thread there.
Okay.
Habanero is another common thread there in terms of I use habaneros quite a lot. I use sesame quite a lot. So those are the ingredients that I use in terms of making the salad dressing. But I enjoy doing that.
I look forward to a taste perhaps in the near future. Yes. You mentioned America. What impressed you most about life in America?
Okay, so meritocracy is, I would say, is the best thing that I experienced when I was in US. Because I feel that there are so many migrants in US, although that situation may not be so good right now for many migrants. But I felt that I was treated based on what I delivered. And as a result of that, I was able to advance my career while I was there. I don't know whether that thing continues today. I think by and large it should continue. There are political situation which is very different today now, and that is sad in my opinion that such a situation exists. But when I was there, I certainly felt really excited about working on so many different types of technologies and being able to progress my career in a country which is not my, where I was not born.
Mm-hmm. Excellent. Last question then. For people who want more information on Cardiotrack, what must they do?
Yes, two things. Come to our website, cardiotrack.io. So that's the name of the website, cardiotrack.io. My email address is ashim.roy, ashim.roy @cardiotrack.io. And of course, they can also send an email to info@cardiotrack.io, and then we'll be happy to send information to them.
Ashim, thank you for coming on the show today.
Neil, thanks very much for the opportunity.
Brilliant. I wish you all the best.
Thank you very much. Take care. Bye-bye.
Thanks to Ashim for coming on the show today, and for more information you can go to cardiotrack.io. Thank you for supporting the podcast, and I shall be back next week. Building something really exciting, please send me an email, hello@neilpatel.co, or tweet at indianstartup.sh, or go to facebook.com/Indian Startup Show. Look to connect. Thank you and goodbye.